back to Human Factors Technology. My name is Jared Degnan. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. This episode is actually going to be the first part of a two-part series looking at some technologies that I found at the International Manufacturing Technology Show in Chicago, Illinois. So first of all, if you've never heard of IMTS, I wouldn't blame you, but it is an absolutely massive manufacturing technology show. And I went up there for work, but I also went up there to create some content and seek out some technologies that either enhanced or leveraged human behavior. And though I found a lot of robots, I found a lot of heavy machinery, I did find two really interesting technologies. So in this episode, I'm going to profile KEBA, which is a low and no-code platform where manufacturers can essentially take their manufacturing managers, the folks who run the machines, and rather than, let's just say, getting rid of them, they can cross-train them to actually program robots. It's a really fascinating discussion, and I really appreciate the folks at KEBA for taking the time to walk me through their technology, talk me through some of the things behind their development. Once the interview wraps up, I'm going to throw it back to myself for a couple of comments and a little bit of a discussion on what KEBA does and how the future of technology really exists within what they call Industry 4.0.
Today we are at the International Manufacturing Technology Show. We're about to go in and see some amazing new technologies that are being debuted in the manufacturing sector. Normally when you talk about manufacturing technologies, you think about replacing humans with robots. And after all, this is a technology podcast about how technology brings out the best in humans, how it leverages human behavior, and how it harnesses human behavior. So what we're going to be seeking out today are technologies that do just that. We're looking at technologies that enhance the employee's experience. We're looking at technologies that help humans do their jobs better and not just replace them. And it's going to be a little bit of a fun time. So let's go check out the International Manufacturing Technology Show 2024. Finding human factors technologies in this sea of automation is difficult, but not impossible. What we're seeing a lot of is talent transformation and the way that technology interacts with that. In particular, within the world of manufacturing, there is a talent crisis. Manufacturers can't find enough people to fill the jobs that are required, and the jobs that are being opened up are very different than the jobs that might once have been considered manufacturing. So what a lot of the companies here at IMTS are doing, number one, we're seeing a lot of really interesting startups that are playing to this need by creating low and no code platforms that allow manufacturers to be a lot more agile. So we're going to talk to one such exhibitor who has a really interesting take on programming robotics, which deals with not just use cases that you can predict, but use cases that you might not predict in manufacturing. We're here at the International Manufacturing Technology Show with
Samuel Polchlepek, application engineer at KEBA Corp in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Okay, great. What do you guys do?
We're a manufacturer for HMIs, controllers, drives, and motors, based out of Linz, Austria.
Okay.
We are here showcasing our DragonBot software, which is a no-code programming interface for implementing not any, but a lot of robot arms. Some that are actually present at the show as well.
Okay.
So it's made to make the interface and experience for the user to do programming, even though they may not actually have a whole lot of experience with coding.
Okay, so maybe like show us a little bit about this software and how it works.
Sure thing. So this is actually our. There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
This is our. So this is actually one of our examples for programming right here. What we intend to do is actually allow people to build up a program for robot control with the use of function blocks. So these function blocks can be actually drag and dropped, hence the name Drag and Bot, to change the order of how the robot behaves and works in the system. So it allows for a lot of flexibility for people that don't have a lot of experience in code. But it also does allow for you to break it down into code if someone that is maybe a bit more comfortable using it is able to kind of look into it. So there we go. So yeah, it's a bit more of what you would expect to see, when you're looking at a robot. So that's a bit of the quick of what DragonBot is about.
Yeah. So I can imagine that the use case for this, when you're transforming a shop floor, you've got some very experienced machinists who have known and loved their machines for quite some time. When you drop a robot in there, they know the motions, they know how to make the part. What they don't know is robotics.
Right.
I can imagine this is very appealing for a certain type of manufacturer.
It is, absolutely. One of the other cases that we've really seen a lot of interest in are small batch implementations. So think of like something like along the lines of welding or other maybe other specific uses. What you can do is you can go through the case, instances of teaching the robot different positions, putting it into a function block, and then it's able to perform that over and over as many times as needed for the process, of course.
Okay.
So
now, who trains the individual who trains the robot?
So the individual that's going to be training the trainer, basically. We do have a team of specialists in Linz, Austria, that would be able to do the training, usually through a remote setting. Of course, if there's interest in it, we do have the ability to have them flown out. We actually have a very comprehensive training, basically training room at our at our headquarters in Linz. So I do know that there is some support for some on-site training, depending on how comprehensive that request would be.
Okay. So talk to me about some of the challenges that you have seen that have manifested the use of this Dragon software.
Some of the challenges that we've seen are sometimes related to implementing other third-party systems that we weren't exactly prepared for, basically. So there is a lot of effort by our team in Linz and Germany, because we do have a building, or rather offices out of both of countries. They're working very hard to be able to implement these third-party softwares and to be able to communicate really efficiently, as well as still keeping the overall interface simple and effective for end users who maybe don't have as much experience.
Great. So who usually implements this? Is it the robotics team that is specialized for the company, or is it actually, do you see a lot of the legacy shop floor managers getting involved in the process?
Usually what would also happen is, I think that we're kind of interested in seeing about having integrators and other companies actually being able to get comfortable with our DragonBot software, implement it into these shop floors, and then they would be the ones that also be able to teach the managers to be able to do the troubleshooting. And then if something else came up that was way more in depth, they'd be able to reach out to those specialists that I mentioned earlier as well.
Okay. What would you say to a customer who they walk all around these booths and they see some phenomenal robotics? A lot of them come with services that are like, hey, we will train the robots. What's the value proposition for this kind of software versus a robotics manufacturer that might do this on their own?
I think the flexibility that we're able to offer is able to really be a point that might be able to compete with that. The ability to say, yeah, we are able to teach you and train you from the manufacturer side. We have the flexibility to say, we can teach, we can still have the robot controlled, we just have to work with us a little bit and work with the integrator that we are wanting to have them work with as well.
Great. All right. Well, for those who are interested in learning more, where can they learn more?
They can learn more at KEBA.us, and from there
there. It's our website. You should be able to find some more information. Feel free to submit a ticket. It's not a ticket, but submit a request for some more information, and we'll be glad to help you out with it. Mark?
So you were asking, where does this get driven from? From the end users versus the system integrators. And we've really been seeing that be driven by both. The customers have a high interest and a high need where they want to empower their workers to do more, to automate more, and really drive their productivity. And so they like the fact that you can have a no-code programming software to robots that understands the robot, it understands the gripper, the vision, and makes it an accessible technology. But once you start getting into a project, a system integrator also needs this, and a system integrator also wants it because the system integrator can design the rest of the automation around the robot, which needs their level of engineering and programming. But when they deliver that system to the customer, it's now a system that can be handed off to that customer. That customer can program new parts, can evolve it to do more things without the system integrator having to do heavy amounts of support, right? And the customer also doesn't like that process either. So it really helps both the system integrator and the end user. The system integrators have always liked the innovations in the market for no-code programming, but unfortunately what's been limiting to them is it's only capable of doing what that no-code software is capable of doing, and everything else is locked out. In this system here, there's actually a full PLC controller and safety level controller, so a system integrator can literally program the entire system and expose that layer of programming up to the operator level face of teaching an application. So it's really a system that helps both the system integrator and the end user.
Yeah, I can imagine that when you're doing discovery around just implementing a robot like this, the use cases that you gather on the front end are one thing.
Yes.
But then you program it, you integrate it, and then suddenly you see the value of it, and you're like, well, maybe it could do this, or maybe it could do that, and suddenly you're in a situation where like, oh shoot, we didn't plan for that. Exactly. And I can imagine using this kind of a platform is huge because number one, it cuts down on that after project cost, where you're like, oh my god, I wish we would have captured that use case on the front end.
Exactly. And that's the problem that has kind of stalled this in the marketplace. Is when you're working with the robot and training it just as a robot, it's working really well. But then when you get into the real world and all of a sudden you got this gripper, you have this tooling, you have this conveyor, you have more around, and so that's where a combined value with the system integrator and a no-code programming software is really what we're seeing successful. And the nice thing is, whether you're a system integrator or an end user, if you go to www.dragonbot.com, we have full access to a demo software where you can load in different robots, put your simulation equipment around it, and actually cycle test it and develop everything from your grippers to your vision solution. So you have perfect concept and development of your concept and verify that this is going to be the right solution before you even start investing in hardware and everything like that. So from a training perspective, it also helps from that standpoint.
I can also imagine there's a huge safety component here. As you are training, as you are implementing these things, being able to revise and being able to create new, for lack of a term, new use cases could be really, really helpful.
Yes, so safety is a very specific challenge around no-code programming because, and it really involves the system integrator. So in our solution with KEBA, this is what KEBA brought when we acquired DragonBot as a software, is we have the controller with the safety level control. So what the system integrator does is you have to qualify an automation solution and lock in your safety code so nobody can change it. That's not something you can, from a safety assessment standpoint, allow an operator to change your safety rules. So the system integrator can program that and have that level of safety, have it basically secured, and the level of the no-code programming is done at a level that's safe for that operator to do without doing something that would be unsafe. So that is a big component that's been previously left out of these solutions.
I can imagine. All right. Well, Daryl, thank you so much.
Yes, not a problem. Thank you for coming by.
Once again, many thanks to the KEBA team for their time and for the great insights into this incredible low and no-code platform that takes the talent and expertise off the shop floor, and it uses it to train robots. And I think this is just an incredible interface, and I think it's just an incredible idea. This is actually going to be the end of part 1 of my IMTS coverage. I do have another great interview coming up, and I want you to stay tuned next week for another really interesting insight to a team that has created this mechanism, this manufacturer's wearable glove that has some incredible applications on the shop floor and to talent development. So I hope you'll join me next week for the second part of this IMTS coverage and interviews. Until then, stay safe, stay human, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Human Factors Technology.